Okay, the AI stock boom is, well, it's everywhere, right? You're seeing the headlines, you're hearing the chatter, and you have to be wondering, is this a real once-in-a-generation opportunity, or are we watching a bubble that's about to pop? Well, in this explainer, we're going to try and cut through all that noise. We're going to look at the incredible numbers, listen to some pretty serious warnings, and then build a clear framework to help you make sense of it all. All right, let's get into it.
So here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off with what's being called the AI gold rush, just to get a sense of the sheer scale of the investment. Then we'll ride that hype wave and look at the mind-blowing returns some of these stocks have posted. After that, it's time for a dose of reality, with some serious warnings from market skeptics. And finally, we'll pull it all together with a framework to help you categorize AI stocks, and a toolkit that shows you how the pros evaluate them.
All right, so let's start with the money. Is this all just talk? Is it just hype? Well, the numbers suggest something much, much bigger is going on here. We are talking about a movement of capital that is kind of historic. $364 billion. Just let that number sink in for a second. Now, this isn't the total investment across the entire market, and this is the truly wild part. That's the amount of money just 4 companies have committed to spending on AI in the 2025 fiscal year. That's it. 4. That cash is going into everything from building massive data centers to designing the next generation of chips. And this quote from wealth management analyst Ariana Chu it nails it. That's not hype, that's infrastructure. Think about that. This isn't just speculative money chasing a cool new trend. This is the modern-day equivalent of building the national railway system or the electrical grid. It's foundational. So when you have that kind of money pouring into building the foundation, you'd expect some pretty big winners to pop up, right? And that is exactly what we have seen. The returns in this space have been, and I am not exaggerating, absolutely spectacular. And that is what's feeding this feeling that you just can't afford to miss out. Just look at this number, over 1,000%. Now, here's the kicker. That isn't a 5-year return. It's not a 10-year return. That is the unbelievable 1-year return for a single AI stock, Quantum Computing Inc. This is the kind of explosive, life-changing potential that investors are chasing right now. Which, of course, leads to the billion-dollar question, the one that's on pretty much every investor's mind. With those kinds of returns on the table, how in the world do you find the next big winner in the AI space? And that quantum computing stock? It's not some crazy outlier. I mean, look at this. The gains are all over the place. You've got Palantir, a big data firm, up almost 250%. But look closer. It's not just the pure AI companies. You've got a legacy hardware maker like Seagate Technology up 185%. Why? Because you need a place to store all that data for the AI to work. It just goes to show you that the gains are real and they're happening across the entire AI ecosystem. Okay, deep breath. Before you pull up your brokerage app and start buying, it is time to hit the brakes, and hard. For every incredible success story, there is a growing chorus of very smart skeptics who are sounding the alarm, and they're drawing some scary parallels to the biggest market crashes in history. Let's start with this warning from James Ferguson. It's pretty blunt. These historically end badly. He's not mincing words. He's directly comparing the excitement around AI to past bubbles, like the dot-com crash, where sky-high valuations eventually came crashing back down to earth. And here's another huge concern, this time from Haidar Habaz. He's basically saying that the term AI itself has become a magic buzzword. Companies are just slapping it on their press releases to pump up their stock price, whether or not they're actually doing anything truly new or innovative. It's the classic all sizzle, no steak problem. And finally, remember that massive $364 billion number we saw? Well, this quote from venture capitalist Roger McNamee takes direct aim at it. He says it's basically unimaginable that we're going to see returns that can justify the sheer amount of money that's already been thrown at this sector. So, to be clear, these aren't just vague fears. The skeptics point to very specific problems. They argue the tech itself is still completely unproven. You've got major reliability issues, like those AI hallucinations we hear about. The valuations feel an awful lot like 1999 all over again. They also point out that people forget about the massive ongoing cost to actually run these AI systems. And maybe most importantly, are there really enough high-value business cases out there to justify all of this spending? So, what do we have? We've got 2 powerful, completely opposite stories. On one hand, a foundational tech revolution. On the other, a speculative bubble waiting to burst. How do you square that circle?
Well, maybe the key is to stop thinking of AI as just one single thing. We need a framework, a way to break the market down into different lanes.
Okay, let's look at this playbook. First, you have the infrastructure giants. These are the picks and shovels of the AI gold rush. Companies like NVIDIA and AMD making the chips, or Seagate handling the storage. Then you have the big tech integrators. Think Microsoft, Alphabet, Meta. They're weaving AI into the massive ecosystems they already own. After that, you've got the specialized apps. These are companies like Palantir or Intuitive Surgical that use AI to solve very specific problems in a specific industry. And finally, you have your undervalued and turnaround plays, companies that might be flying under the radar or maybe poised for a comeback.
So that framework is great for sorting all these companies into different buckets. But once they're in a bucket, how do you actually figure out which ones are the real deal and which ones are just riding the hype train? Well, for that, you need a toolkit. And luckily, experts tend to use a pretty consistent set of metrics to pressure test these companies. Experts use these 4 tools to cut through the noise. First, revenue growth. Simple enough, is the company actually making more money, or is it all just buzz? Second, gross profit margin. This tells you if their core business is actually profitable, which addresses that whole concern about the high cost of running AI. Third, R&D spending. This is huge. It shows you if a company is actually investing in its own future. And finally, the price-to-sales growth ratio. This is a key metric to see if a stock's valuation is reasonable compared to its growth, or if it's way out in dot-com bubble territory.
So we end up right back where we started. Is AI the next internet, or is it the next dot-com bubble? The truth is, it might be both, happening at the exact same time. The answer for any investor probably isn't a simple yes or no. It's way more complicated. It really depends on where you look, what you're looking for, and ultimately, which part of this massive, new AI universe you decide to explore.